How to create high performance teams is one question that is constantly top of the mind for many leaders. And what we have found out is that leaders who take a more coach-like approach to their leadership, they have the greatest impact in creating high performance teams. Traditionally, the manager was expected to have all the answers and provide solutions, solve the problems, and get down and get their hands dirty if there was a problem that needed his attention. But with constantly changing environment, it's impossible for any one manager to have all the solutions and the answers. And that's why it is important for them to shift their role from more from a problem solver to that of a facilitator of problem solving. This is where the coach-like approach is much more effective than the traditional manager's approach. So let's have a look at what are some of the differences. Whereas a leader would provide solution for any problem brought to him, a coach would ask questions to the coachee to help them to find out the solutions themselves. Whereas a leader would jump in themselves to start solving the problem on their own, a coach would refrain from doing so and would once again ask the coachee what would their approach be and to help them to make the better choices help them to make choices of what would be best for them to do in that situation. So the fundamental difference between the leadership style of a coach and a leader is that of communication. Leaders take more of a telling style of communication, whereas coaches take more of an asking style of communication. If a leader is looking to empower their teams, they would be better off by taking a more asking and less telling approach. With seemingly such a simple shift in the communication style, many leaders find it extremely difficult to make the shift to a more coach-like approach. And the answer to that is very simple, that we are all creatures of habits, and we just fall into our old behaviors and old habits of being more directive in our approach. And we find it difficult to stay curious for too long before our advice monster takes over and we start jumping into the solutions and our suggestions. Second thing is, change is extremely hard, and behavioral change is definitely very hard, and it takes time for us to do some deliberate practice to make those changes. But by far, the most important reason why we find it so difficult to make the shift is because of our mindset. You see, we are working in a very complex, ambiguous, and uncertain environment. And that's the reason many organizations place a high premium on having clarity, certainty, and structure to solving the problems. And when I, as a leader, am providing solutions, jumping in to solve the problems, and being busy doing things, I find it very gratifying and satisfying to be doing those things, and my mind gets the message that I am being useful. But when I take more a coach-like approach to solving the problem, where I only ask questions and refrain from providing solutions, even when I know the solutions, even when I have the answers, it's very difficult for my mind to take that message. And after the conversation is over and it is still kind of open-ended and we have not come to resolving the problem, I start to get a self-doubt. A self-doubt starts to creep in whether I'm adding any value, whether I'm being useful by being more like a coach. But one thing we must understand is that when you feel out of control and you don't seem to have a complete handle on how things are going to pan out, it's okay. This is fine. Why? Because this is called empowerment. When you let go of that control and let people take their own course of how they want to solve the problems. So once that self-doubt creeps in, we fall back onto our old behaviors. Why? Because they are the comfort zone, and that's where most of us fail in either breaking an old habit or creating new ones. So how do you make coach-like communication style a default behavior for yourself? I would like to recommend this three-pronged approach of mindset, skill set, and tool set. Mindset, first to resolve the conflict within your mind, why you should actually do this. Skill set, build the skills of asking questions effectively. And tool set, have a set of questions ready that you can get into a ritual every time that you get into a conversation with anyone. So let's have a look at mindset shift first. One of the things that we need to understand is that when we are being helpful in giving solutions, we are not actually being helpful. Because when you are trying to provide the answer, once again, you are providing them with the fish, not helping them to learn how to fish. So remind yourself every time that you are tempted to give a solution, remind yourself what is the long term objective that you would like to develop them as leaders and let them learn how to fish. When you are trying to help by jumping in, realize that you yourself are doing the job rather than getting it done from them. And it is wrong on two levels. One, once again, you are depriving them of learning and growing. And second, you are creating more work for yourself, and you are not doing justice to your role as a manager of what you should be doing if you are busy doing the job of your team members. So the shift in mindset that is required is an oxymoron that when you are helping, you are actually not helping. And also, Amy Edmondson suggests that asking questions is the best way for creating psychological safety within your teams. Because what that communicates to the team member is that their inputs are valued and about, they have been asked for their suggestions on how to solve a problem. And that's when they bring their full self to the problem solving, and the creativity and innovation blossoms. Next, the tool set. So if you have a set of questions that you can go back to every time that you're having a conversation, just like a template, not only does it make it easy for you to get into that coach-like conversation mode, but it also helps you to focus a lot more on what the responses you're getting from them. And one such resource that I can recommend is the 7 question framework of Michael Bungay from his book, The Coaching Habit. It's a powerful tool for anyone wanting to practice more coach like conversation. And what this framework does is to give you the techniques for starting a conversation quickly without beating around the bush and get deep into the real problem fast and then close the conversation with a flair in such a manner that both you and the other party feels that the conversation was useful. And the most important part of this framework, again, is that it can be applied equally well to a 2 minute conversation or a 20 minute conversation. So I would highly recommend you to check it out and see how you can make it a part of your vocabulary. So finally, to reiterate what Michael says, is that coaching does not necessarily have to be an extra job that you have to do besides what all you're doing, but it can be doing something that you're already doing in a different way that can have a huge impact uh, on the way that you lead and to help you create high performance teams.